Hey everybody, thanks for checking us out today at Student Connection. We're going to jump off in something I've been thinking about for the last couple weeks, and it may expand into more, but I began thinking about, as parents, mom and dad, what we can do to be purposeful to grow our students, to grow our kids. Now, whether you have a child in student ministry that's in middle school to high school age, or you have your children that are younger, these things should work out for either one of them. It's not so pigeonholed where it's just for, this is just for a teenager. No, I believe these things will work for children of any age. And I'm not... This is not something that, boom, I just came up with. This is things that I've seen and have been poured into, whether it's books I've read or people in my life that have modeled this for me. But a couple of things today I want to share with you. 3 things that we can do to grow our students. And when I mean that, grow them in their relationship with Jesus. So when you hear these, this is where they're pointed. But as everything, even the application we get from the Bible, it will travel out from that, and how we treat other people and how we grow in our relationships. But the number one thing I put down is be purposeful in discipling our kids. Be purposeful, meaning we need to worship together with our kids. And I know that Lifeway put out a statistic about 3 years ago that points us to a new understanding of what an average church attender is. If you look at the latest research, it says that the average church attender is 2 times a month. And that is whether that's Sunday morning, Sunday night, Wednesday night, whenever churches have worship service. Whenever that is, 2 times a month is the average now. It's the new norm. Now that's another rabbit trail we could talk about as we go, but we need to make those times meaningful. So whether it's mom and dad, your work schedule keeps you out, or your kids are involved in things, whether that's sports or in any kind of club or thing with school, that they're going to be out one weekend this month, or they're going to be out 2 weekends. We need to make sure that those weeks that they miss corporate worship with the local church is we're purposeful in worshiping with our kids, 1, when they're there, but 2, when they're not, get in the routine of doing something that pushes them toward the Lord. I can remember as a child, we'd go on vacation, and we would either, one of 2 options, depending on where we were, we would find a church to go to there, or my mom even went so far as to get the Sunday school material from our teachers, get a copy of it, and be able to have Sunday school in the hotel room. I can remember doing that before. And so I look at it now and thinking that had a big impact on me because I haven't forgotten it. But it's one way that we can be purposeful in discipling our kids. Alongside that, not just worshiping together, which is great. I believe we need to come together in the local church and corporately worship, but having family worship at home is also something that can be great, whether it's once a week or whether it's every night. You have to find what works for you and your household. And go with it. Find what works, because I understand, moms and dads, there's going to be, every night you're going to be pulled towards something else, and nailing down what your family holds fast to is important. And if it's being with other believers in church, if that's important to you, as it should be as a believer, then that doesn't budge. Hey, we're going to worship on Sunday morning. Hey, they're going to be involved in youth ministry on Wednesday night, or children's ministry, or maybe that's where you plug in and serve. Like that's your time to serve, is on Wednesday night. It's important to do that, but worship with your kids. The second one under that is in being purposeful. Another way we can do it: read with our kids. Read scripture with your kids. It's good for them to hear you read it. It's good for you to hear them read it. And that should spur on conversation hey, what have you been reading? What did you learn? I know over the years with with our kids, a question they're going to get every Sunday afternoon when we get home from church is, hey, what did y'all talk about in Sunday school this morning? Just because of the hustle and bustle of Sunday morning, we won't have a good, meaningful conversation in between Sunday school and church. And so they know they're going to get asked that on Wednesday nights, either on their car ride home or once we get home. Hey, what did y'all study tonight? What did y'all learn about tonight? It's going to happen. And I've seen these personally in my life work because it makes me understand where my children are, what they've retained, maybe what those conversations have spurred on in small groups as you get teenagers. I know with my two that are in student ministry now, getting to talk about their small groups some, of just, hey, how did everything go tonight? And they're able to relay, for me, either, hey, pray for so-and-so, I don't, they won't go into detail, but hey, they just got a lot going on. Or hey, we had some good conversation around this question tonight. It's good, and it's good to have the being purposeful in discipling. And another thing that's purposeful is use teachable moments. Whether you're riding down the road and there's a song on the radio that triggers a thought, or maybe something that as you've been studying in your quiet time, the Lord has impressed on your heart, and it's just a great opportunity to have a conversation with your child. But use these teachable moments. Encourage them. It goes alongside that. Encourage them to find and look for and find those opportunities, those teachable moments that the Lord puts in their path each and every day. Not just that we hold on to that we control those teachable moments, but that they'll see it too, because they can learn from the experience that the Lord puts them in as well. So be purposeful in our discipleship. The second thing is this, be vulnerable with your kids. Be vulnerable with them. Be open, be honest, even if it's something you don't like. And that can be a slippery slope. If it's a situation, or maybe it's a personality that you have to deal with that you don't really care for, approach it with grace. Know the boundaries of that, because it's good to see our kids see us vulnerable, that we're hurting, that we're joyful, that they just don't see one emotion from us all the time, and being open and honest. Hey, this is why this bothers me, and I want you to understand that. So if they see me bothered, they can tell, hey, what's going on? But because it's if we're trying to disciple and pour into our kids, and we're not teaching them how to care for others or how to approach different people, then we're failing them in that area. It's not that we need to be reclusive and closed off all the time to where they don't want to have a relationship with you, or they don't want to have a conversation. We're just going to totally avoid that one topic because mom or dad doesn't care for that. But be open, be honest with them, be weak in front of them, and because understanding being weak gets a bad rap, but the Lord continues to show us through being weak, and ultimately His Word tells us that when we are weak, He is strong, and it models dependency on the Lord. So when there are those times in your life where I just can't do this, we just have to come to humble ourselves and confront ourselves and say, we can't do this, but God can. And we can be grateful for that and model that for our kids in being vulnerable. And all this in balancing it with grace, because how we approach and how we talk about certain topics with our kids, they need to be grace-filled. We need to have an understanding of there may be appropriate times to share certain topics and talk about and hit certain things, and there's times that we don't need to do it. Or if you're like me and you've got a household, you've got different age range kids, it may be appropriate and fitting to talk with your teenager, but not necessarily your 10-year-old or your 8-year-old. And so we need to lean on the Lord's understanding and discernment in those times. But also, along with being vulnerable with your kids, and this depends on your personality, understand the difference between arrogance and confidence. because we all want our kids to be confident in the Lord. If you're a Christian, you want your kids to, one, know Jesus, two, grow in his likeness, but be confident in that. Be confident to know when you're weak and say, I need the Lord. I need him through that. But also when you are walking through everyday life, you're leaning on the power of Jesus, not your own arrogance, because that will also lead us down a path that down the road it's hard to come back from. But when we understand and help our kids, especially, and I would say this is pointed more toward older kids, teenagers maybe, that understand that difference of confidence and arrogance where younger children may not. But that's our job, moms and dads, to walk with them as we navigate life together. And God has given us the church. And so be vulnerable with your kids, be open, be honest, be weak. Know the difference in confidence and arrogance because it's there. And as we model that for them, my kids a lot of times know that I'm joking when it comes when it comes to things like, well, I ain't gonna mess with me. They know that I'm joking, and they know me, and some of it's because I've been open and honest with them as well, and they just know my personality. So be vulnerable with your kids. The third thing today is model grace. Model grace, and this to me sometimes is the hardest thing to do. Because we're a checklist kind of people. We want things to be A, B, C, D in order, and some people may not be, but you still want a little bit of order to your life, and you want it the way you want it. When you go, you pull up and you order your coffee, you order it how you want it. When you go and you order food at a restaurant, you order it the way you want it. If you wanted a steak rare and they bring it out well done, that's not what you desired. That's not what you wanted. But how we handle those situations at home, at work, and particularly as believers at church or amongst other believers, we struggle with handling things with grace. A lot of times we don't handle them at all because we just sweep it under the rug, especially with other believers. We're like, well, we disagree on that, but, it's okay. We're not going to argue about it. And we let that fester and that comes out in our life. The next time we see them, we're still remembering it because we haven't dealt with that situation in grace, whether it's a confrontation or just a conversation about topics. And it kind of trickles back and hits all of these in being purposeful in life lessons. When you're dealing with people, you want to see your children. You want your children to see you deal with people, so they'll remember that. They'll learn from that. But we need to be open. We need to be honest. We need to be vulnerable with them. So when they see us dealing with people, hopefully they see a good example. The same way that the disciples saw Jesus model what he has called us to. The same way when Paul writes letters in the New Testament, he said, you saw this in me, so you do it as well. Because in that, he wasn't being arrogant. He was being confident in who Jesus was. And when we model grace in our homes, in our work, and among other believers, it's seen. God is glorified in it, and he reaffirms how he's working in our life. So moms and dads, I hope those three things are helpful. And as always, you can reach out to me. I'd love to have a conversation with you. If there's something I can pray for you about, or if there's something in your life or your student's life that we can talk about, I'd be glad to do it. So feel free to reach out to me, and I hope you guys have a great rest of the week.